Insight, more women over 40 are knocking back larger amounts of alcohol. So why?
This is how you relax. You're a mum, have a wine. Come 4 or 5 o'clock, a bottle was open and a bottle will be finished by the end of the night. On the weekends, sometimes more.
I'd probably go through a bottle a day.
But you take no notice of health guidelines?
No, I never took any notice when I was a smoker.
I could drink probably half a carton on a Friday night by
beer?
myself. Yeah.
I hate myself for doing it around my kids. For the way that I function as a parent at less than 50% capacity when I'm alternately drunk or hungover.
Welcome everybody, good to have you with us tonight. Helen, you're 69 and you only started drinking regularly in your late 40s. Why? Why did you start then?
Probably because we lived on a farm in a rural area and we didn't have the money. So we didn't go out like a lot of the young ones do now with double incomes. But then we moved to the city and I blame my neighbours.
Why do you blame your neighbours?
They were wine drinkers and they introduced us to wine, which I'd never really had much to do with. And of course now we've moved down to the Margaret River area. We live in Busselton in Western Australia.
And there's no shortage
area.
of wine there.
So, you know, hey, you can't go to a winery and not have wine for lunch. So,
How often do you drink?
I'll be honest, every day.
And how much?
I'd probably go through a bottle a day.
A bottle a day?
Yep.
Is there a rule about when you start?
Oh yes, we'd never start before 7 o'clock at night.
And why is that?
That's when the fire's going in the winter. And that's when we have a lovely sunset on our front veranda.
But you shift that sometimes around Sydney time? You live in WA?
Yes, sometimes. Oh, yes. On weekends. Oh, yeah. You know, midday. Well, that's...
So when would you start on a weekend?
It just depends on our social life, really. I mean, I've done it. I go 4 or 5 weeks without a drink. But I actually enjoy a wine and I go to sleep at night time much better after a wine than I do without a wine.
You sleep better
Oh, absolutely.
drinking.
Absolutely.
So what happens when you don't drink?
I stay awake all night worrying about the world problems, trying to solve them all.
What do you think about the constant health messages that are saying that you really should only be drinking you should only be drinking 2 glasses a day?
You know, I'm heading towards 70, and I'm a great believer in being a fatalist, so I believe my life is going to be judged by someone else and whatever happens to me will happen. I look after myself, we eat well, we exercise, and we sort of try and do things in moderation. Doesn't always work that way, but yeah, so
But you take no notice of those health guidelines?
No, I never took any notice when I was a smoker. I never took any notice of the sponge that got squeezed in front of me by the children, and, you know, maybe I'm a bit of a rebel. Maybe I don't like rules.
But do you think that we need to have some of that out there because there's people in their 20s or my age and we've got young kids and a lot of people aren't aware of how much they're drinking or really what it's doing to them. And I talk to people and I say, I think I drink too much. And they're like, oh, no. I said, a bottle is 9 drinks. That's like, if you add that up over a week...
Well, Sally, for you, I mean, you're 42?
Yeah.
How long have you been drinking?
Oh, since I was 14.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, like most, I think...
And when you drink, how much would you have?
Well, I've worked in entertainment. I was a binge drinker at university. Like, you go out and you get hammered and you don't think about the consequences. You start working in your 20s and you drink, because that's what you do. But then I had kids and I never thought I would drink more after having kids. And I don't know where it went from 2 glasses a day to a bottle, but it did.
So it went up when you had kids?
Yeah.
Rather than
after
going
the
down?
second one, yeah, because...
Why do you think that was?
I hadn't slept for 4 years. I was tired. I probably felt I'd gone from having quite a big career to now being at home with kids, and you can't leave. You can't leave at 4 o'clock and go for a run or something. So it's in the media and it's so much like, this is how you relax. You're a mum, have a wine. And my Facebook Messenger is like, all of my mum friends are Snapchatting, it's 5 o'clock, we're having wine. It's so acceptable. That's how you deal with being a parent. That's how you deal.
That's how women deal with being
Yeah,
parents.
it is. And my husband and I have a business that we run together. We have staff, we run it out of the house. It's quite a successful business. So everyone would look at my life and go, well, she's got no problems. Her kids go to private school, live in a nice house. We have a successful business. I volunteer at school. I'm keeping it together. Yet, come 4 or 5 o'clock, a bottle was open and a bottle will be finished by the end of the night. On the weekends, sometimes more. And it's taken me 2 years to get to here.
Where you're thinking about it and talking about it.
Well,
and
no, I've
worried
been
about
talking about it for 2 years, and which I find really odd is I've been dropping it into conversation that I think I drink too much. I think maybe I should stop. Not one person ever agreed with me. And then I was like, this is weird. I'm actually out there going, this is a call for help. Like, I shouldn't drink this much. And people are like, no, we all do it. It's fine. It's normal. And it's not okay, you know. I know women that have lost their licences because they've been pulled over driving their kids to school the next day because they're still drunk from the night before.
What about you, Beck? You're 46. How much beer would you drink in a night?
On an average night, about 6 standard stubbies, I guess. But
Every night?
every night. When I'm on a binge, I call it. So when I'm sort of stuck in this cycle of drinking, hungover, drink, hungover, drink, hungover. Yeah, 6 beers easily, 6 stubbies. But then gradually that will increase over time to maybe 8 or 9 stubbies a night, usually until I just pass out.
And you've got kids?
I have 2 children,
Yeah.
yes. I have an 11-year-old girl and a 6-year-old boy.
Were they aware of that drinking?
No, because I tend to stay high functioning while I'm doing it. Like, I still cook meals, I still wash clothes, I still clean the house. You know, most nights I'll tuck them into bed and read them books, and then I'll stay up and finish off my 6-pack of beer and watch a bit of TV and fall asleep on the couch and go to bed and wake up the next morning and do that all over again. And the thing is, when you're hungover, often the only way that you feel you can make yourself feel better is to drink again. So you just get stuck in this endless loop of drink.
Do you mean morning or night time?
No, I never drink in the morning.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing, you know. I mean, while I can't set rules around how much I drink, I can set rules about when I drink.
About the time.
The time,
Yeah.
This is
big
really
thing.
fascinating. What is that?
Because it
What's the
excuses
rules?
you.
It's acceptable to
drink
drink
after 5.
Five
If it's after
o'clock is
5.
9 o'clock,
If
right?
it's after 5, you're not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
It's all good.
If you're starting to cook dinner, crack a beer,
Yeah.
crack a wine, you know.
Yeah.
The kids are home, it's stressful, you know, your kids screaming at you, the phone's ringing, you know, dinner's cooking on the stove, the television's
This
going.
is my reward.
God, I need a drink. You know?
Isn't this really interesting? Because you're in your 40s. When we were in our 40s, there's no way in the world we would have gone out drinking with that. But these play dates, I can't get
But
over
this
these
isn't
play
going
dates.
out.
No,
drinking.
this is
home.
home.
This is
This is
home,
home,
but also
yeah.
these play dates. I've never heard of play dates
I
before,
was-
where we'd go and have a cup of tea with the girlfriend after school with our kids.
But you don't anymore, Helen.
No, but I don't have my babies around to be responsible to. I mean, if it was my grandchildren,
Modern
I
women,
would've-
I think, are definitely
I
more
think
inclined.
I organised my
140s
mother's
modern.
one here in Sydney
Yeah.
with my
Are
first.
we modern?
Our first play date outside of the health centre was at the pub. We had 4 months old. We went to the pub, then we realised it was a bad look, so we went to the park with bottles of wine. Because it was fun, and we're mums, and we're on maternity leave. And this
Do
is
you
all
think
okay.
of yourselves as heavy drinkers?
I
Or
didn't
did you?
I didn't then. I thought this was... And I wasn't drinking as much then. We'd do that, but I wasn't drinking a bottle a day.
When did you start drinking?
Same as Sally, actually, when I was 14. I
At
was
a family event.
Well, actually, it was a boat cruise on the Swan River with our Catholic church, and for whatever reason, beer was on tap. You know, like there was jugs of beer, and I was 14. You know, I was a child. I mean, even looking back on it now, I feel somehow that it was my responsibility, that I was responsible for drinking. But I was 14. I was a kid. You know, and if that happened to my daughter now, I would be horrified.
Where do you drink mostly?
At home. You know, if we go out on the weekends with friends, I'll drink then too. But yeah, mostly at home, by myself.
By yourself?
By myself, yeah. Yeah. My husband, partner, he likes to drink, but he can take it or leave it, unlike me.
So how does he feel about your drinking?
He doesn't like it. He's not a big talker, my husband, so you won't get much out of him, but it's quite evident that he really doesn't like it, just for the fact of the money that I'm wasting for a start, and maybe the impact that it has on our children, if not now.
Does it impact on your children?
I like to hope not now. Like, I consider myself, you know, an excellent mother, I really do. I love my children more than anything. And I am a good mother, you know. I'm actively involved in their education. I'm actually involved in the therapy for my son's autism. You know, I'm on the school P&C. I run our own business. I'm a functioning good mother. But I suspect that as time goes on and my children become more cognisant of how much I drink, that's when it will start to have an impact. And that's why, you know, now I feel like I need to really rein it in.
That's how I feel too, yeah.
Yeah.
Does it affect how you function, how you look to the outside world? Because I'm looking at the four of you. And, you know, it's interesting because it's not what you expect to see when you talk to people.
It's not the image of an alcoholic.
No.
We're not living in gutters and stuff. We're
Middle-aged, middle-class women.
doing well in our lives, keeping it all together, you know? No one...
I don't know whether it affects how people see me, to be honest. I mean, no one has ever said anything. And if I raise it the same as Sally, like, oh, I mean, really? Well, you know, I drink that much. You can't have a problem because I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Or it might be... The other thing is, because I do so much of my drinking at home, sort of, you know, in the evening when I don't ever see anyone, then no one's really aware of it, you know, except for my family.
I think that's how the problem is getting so much worse, is a lot of it's unseen. When you're 18 or in your 20s, you're going out to clubs. If you're that hammered, you get kicked out. You're getting feedback from the rest of the world going, your behaviour is... Unacceptable. At home, no one's seeing. Like, it's sort of hidden, and as long as you are up and you're meeting your stuff that you need to do in the public eye, then you don't have a problem.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know what? It's not only peer pressure in your age group. You know, I gave it up for 6 weeks in April, May, and I didn't find it really hard to give up.
You didn't find it hard?
No, I just went bang, just stop like that. But socially, it was really hard to go out. So I ended up buying mineral water and taking a champagne glass and putting it in it like it looked like bubbles.
Yeah.
And then I would just get louder and louder and louder over the night and just sort of, you know, because that's what they say, you know. I asked all my friends, what do I do differently when I'm drinking? I don't get aggressive. I cry. I love everybody. I know, but most of the time I laugh a lot, but I do get louder.
And how did people react?
You know, they'd say, oh, look, one won't hurt you. But I felt the peer pressure. So I know from young people how it must be, because you haven't got the strength. When you get to my age, you can just tell them all to get...
Yeah, I'm very
whatever.
open about it. I'm like, I'm not drinking. And everyone's like, but you're so fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not very fun for me. And I don't actually... look at me, I'm pretty open, social. I don't really need it.
No.
And I never drank it to be anything different. I just liked getting
And my
drunk.
friend, I think my friend Josie, would you say that I don't really need it? No, I don't talk
I don't
anymore.
think any of us need it.
I don't think anyone really needs it.
No, she doesn't need it. Her personality is bigger than what alcohol makes her, and she's a very social person. So.
And do you drink as well?
I do drink, but I'm a two-pot screamer. Half a glass of wine and I can feel the effects, so, yeah, I don't drink very heavily.
Karen, you're 50. What goes through your mind when you go from your first drink to your second drink to your third drink?
Nothing. I'm enjoying it. I can relate to so many of what the other ladies have said. First drink, don't think about it. Second drink, don't think about it. If it's a school night, I tend to think a little bit about the third drink. Should I really do this? If it's a Friday night, I don't think of the drink at all until probably I start to stumble at about 6 or 7. And then I go, oh, it's okay, I can sleep in the morning.
So what would be the most that you'd drink in one session?
I've probably slowed down a lot now, but, you know, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I could drink probably half a carton on a Friday night by myself. Yeah, no problem.
So that would make you a legend where we're from.
And you know, that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
That makes me feel sad. Like, that makes me want to give her a hug.
Yeah.
Karen a hug.
But it's just, it was what, I guess...
You can if you like.
I know, later.
What I'm relating to so much is that I think we've got so much pressure on ourselves as women in this age group.
Yeah.
You know, we grew up in the 90s, rock on, Nirvana. We just had this, the world was our oyster. We had professional careers, we had children.
Yeah.
Some of our relationships broke down. We became single mums. Some of us did, some of us didn't. I think we just had a lot of pressure, and the way that we dealt with that is the way that we'd always dealt with things. It was just, it's the Australian way, yeah.
How much do you drink now?
I'd say I drink every night, probably 3 or 4 CC cans every night.
This is a whiskey
like,
mix?
yeah, Canadian Club and dry. Sometimes it depends. I might drink a bottle of wine. I don't really have a preference. I'll have, I'm on Coronas at the moment. It's just what the bottle of...
Whatever's
good.
What's on
my
special?
opinion.
And what
the
sort
bottle.
of situations do you drink in? Is it always at home?
No, yeah.
Or mostly at home?
Mostly at home. I guess my partner drinks as well, so it just sort of makes it a bit easier. But
What about your girlfriends?
yeah, when we get together, it tends to be a big night.
Do you ever get together and not drink?
No.
Never.
Not at night time, surely, but I mean, you would meet for coffees during the day.
Maybe.
You know.
And it was
If it was
funny.
Would you drink during the day as well?
No.
Have you got that rule
No,
about...
Day drinking, that's like where you've got a little bit of an issue. Like, I wouldn't
That's when
drink...
you really are an alcoholic.
Yeah, like,
isn't it? You know?
I wouldn't day drink.
It's crazy.
I know, it's crazy.
I mean, that is really, you know...
What's the definition of an
I know.
alcoholic?
Yeah, what is
a
the
couple
definition
of 6-year-old
of an
birthday
alcoholic?
parties at 10 o'clock. People are on the G&Ts.
Yeah.
At 10 o'clock in the morning at a 6-year-old's birthday party. Like, this is what's happening. It's so
But
acceptable.
see, what you just said before about that's alcoholic, and we've got this perception in our mind of what an alcoholic is. I call myself now a high-functioning alcoholic, you know, because I can still hold down a job. I'm still functioning in every capable aspect. It's just from 5 o'clock onwards, that's my time, that's when I will have a drink.
Jasmine, you're 43. The last time you had a drink, how much did you have?
1.5 bottles.
1.5
Wine.
bottles of wine? Mm-hmm. Is that fairly typical for you?
An average night, but possibly even a light night, because usually I do spirits.
And how much would you do
I
in
could
the way of
drink
spirits?
a bottle of gin or vodka in 2 nights.
And would you do that every night?
Yep.
How would you describe the relationship that you had with alcohol? Or have with alcohol?
Well, it was my friend when I wanted to have a drink, and then once I got to 3, 4, 5, it was my enemy, because I would drink till I had blackouts where I was still awake and functioning, but the next day couldn't remember anything that I'd done. I'd do things like, I thought I was walking out my back step, which was flat concrete, and I was walking out where there were steps, just face plant, knocked out, only for a couple of seconds, woke up, just went, crawl into bed, and then woke up the next morning with this egg on my head that was, and I called the ambulance because I was like, I might have concussion, you know, I was, it was pretty scary.
What do you like when you drink?
Well, I think that was the major reason I went into detox, was because I'd started to lose all my friends. When I was in my 20s, I was, you know, life of the party. It was great fun. But once I got into my 40s and had more than the bottle, I started turning into what my friends call Frank. And Frank wasn't very nice. Frank was very abrupt with people. Frank was honest with people. Frank was really rude and never violent, never, you know, wanted to get into punch-up fights with anyone like that. But it was just a real gruffness and a, you know, attitude and...
Ugly.
Yeah.
What's the appeal of alcohol?
You know why you're doing it. I know why I do it.
Why?
I do it to relieve stress. I do it to cover my, you know, so I don't have to think about the stress of raising my son and running a business. I don't have to think about if my relationship isn't going well or any of those things. Once I have a drink, I don't have to think about it anymore. I just have a drink and everything's good. I feel so much better.
He had said to me that he would dread a phone call from a policeman to say, "We've found your wife, she's dead, she's crashed into a tree."
Welcome to the world of the crops that fuel the earth.
Mavo Mara is back with a new Elemental series.
A glorious celebration of everything that grows.
Food Safari Earth starts Thursday at 8 on SBS and On Demand.
The Australian Government is transitioning our energy network to be more affordable, reliable and sustainable. We've secured agreements from retailers to give consumers a better deal. We're ensuring there's enough gas for Australians before it's shipped offshore. We've started on Snowy 2.0 to power 500,000 homes, and we're investing in new solar farms and battery storage. Australia has the power to lead by example, so we're powering forward. Search Powering Forward to find out more. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
My usual post-workout hunger buster is a big juicy Subway foot-long meatball sub with lettuce, capsicum and Swiss cheese. Kicks hunger right in the guts. Big time. That's why Subway is my kind of fresh.
Beach, sun and sands. A drive through the beautiful hinterland.
Fly with Virgin Australia Return to the Gold Coast and stay 7 nights 3.5 star from $675.
Best in the air.
And everywhere.
When you're driving, there's only one handprint of tread connecting each of your tyres to the road. That's just 4 handprints to hold you close and keep you safe through all of life's twists and turns. With so much riding on them, you need to be sure you're in the right hands. Hands you can trust, wherever that road may take you. Bridgestone, you're in safe hands.
The Toro Spring Catalogue sale is on now with great mower offers like this recycler mower at just $795. This time cutter ride-on for $4,495. And a 54-inch time cutter HD with MyRide suspension system for under 10 grand. See your local Toro dealer today.
Woolies kid-sized fruit. Easier for tiny hands to handle with 5 pieces in every pack. Now, who wants to swap? No! Helping Aussie kids become fresh food kids. That's why I pick Woolies.
TPG presents our amazing NBN Ready bundle deal. Get unlimited data with home phone line rental, all for just $59.99 a month. Yep, unlimited data with home phone line rental for $59.99 a month. Connecting Australia to the internet.
tpg.com.au.
It doesn't see colour. It doesn't hear language. It doesn't care about religious beliefs, sexual orientation, or cultural differences. The ocean doesn't discriminate. And neither do we. Surf Life Saving Australia is for all Australians. Join your local club today.
Another day's work as guardian angels.
It's your world.
They're always armed and their weapons loaded.
Be better informed.
A few little things get your heart racing.
SBS World News, nightly at 6:30.
Is it because I'm black?
There you go.
Jacob! Jacob! I trusted you. Carries us away.
Sally, was there a point where you think your drinking really took off?
Yeah, it was after my second was born and he had some food issues, so I had to go on this crazy elimination diet and he was on this really strict food thing, and it was really, I don't know, quite a lot of work on top of the business. He was about 1, I think I had PND.
Postnatal depression.
Yeah, and so it was all kind of snowballing. I was definitely medicating with alcohol, and I think that at that point, I couldn't tell you when it stopped being 2 glasses and started being a bottle, but around then.
What were you doing before you had kids?
I was a theatrical producer. I was travelling the world and having a fantastic time. And now I'm home with 2 kids and I sell uniforms. So that may be why I drink a bit.
How old are your kids?
5 and 3.
Oh, wow.
So did you realise your drinking was creeping up?
That 6 months, I think, in my head, and I think I was sort of saying to people, but no one ever questioned it. No one. And I'm sure, like, my parents had seen me get totally written off, and even my dad's like, I didn't think it was ever a problem. I'm like, I couldn't stand up. It's a problem. So I guess when your parents aren't saying it's a problem, your partner's not saying it's a problem, it's not a problem.
When was your last binge?
5 weeks ago on my 42nd birthday.
And how much did you
2 bottles of wine and a martini. Oh, I felt pretty bad the next day. I don't remember going to bed. I don't remember them leaving. These are parents from school. Like, I was mortified. And they're like, you were hilarious. It's fine. I'm like, this is not okay, people. Like, it's really weird that you have to justify that something that is so unhealthy and so dangerous is a problem. Like, if I was like, I'm giving up smoking, I'm giving up sugar, people are like, good on you.
Yeah.
That's healthy. I'm giving up drinking.
Different with alcohol.
Oh, my God, how could you?
Why do you think you started drinking more, Beck?
I think primarily was to deal with my son, my 3-year-old son at the time.
This is your son who was diagnosed with autism?
Yes. It was really difficult back then. I mean, he's 6 now and it's so much easier, and he's such a beautiful boy, so I don't want to, you know, put a negative connotation on that.
Absolutely.
But back then it was really, really difficult. And I think, you know, having to deal with his difficult behaviour all day, and then sort of there was a lot of grief involved and a lot of wondering whether it was my fault, whether it was something I'd done when I was pregnant. So anyway, I think that I sort of drank so I didn't have to deal with that and have all those thoughts in my head all the time.
So you're blaming yourself?
I was blaming myself, definitely. And it took me a long time, you know, a good 3 years to realise that it's not my fault. And it doesn't matter anyway, because he's perfectly a beautiful boy. But I think initially that's the reason my drinking really escalated.
How much would you think about drinking before you actually started? Like, did you think about it?
Yes. You know, you would start probably about midday.
Thinking about it?
Yeah, will I go and buy a 6-pack of beer? No, you shouldn't. Just go and pick the kids up and take them down the beach. Don't go to the bottle shop. And then you pick up the kids from school and take them down the beach. You know, you think, oh, this is really good. And then you're driving back into town and you drive past the bottle shop. Oh, I'll just duck in and get 1 6-pack. It'll just be tonight and then I'll stop tomorrow. And that's just how it went every night.
And would you drink in front of your kids?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my children were at home with me, so yes. Yeah.
What about the rest of you?
Oh, you have one when you're cooking dinner. You have one with dinner.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't think I was drunk in front of the kids. Like, I drank after they went to the bed, but definitely, yeah, they saw me drinking, and that's one of the reasons why I want to stop. I don't want them to think it's normal.
I have 3 children, 24, 18 and 15, and 2 of my oldest, they don't drink.
Wow.
Because I believe, because they watch me drink. I don't know what my 15-year-old's going to do, but they both have made an active choice not to drink.
It doesn't always work like that.
No, it doesn't.
Shan, I want to talk to you because you're 43 and like a lot of people, you started binge drinking at uni. How did your drinking increase?
I would say for me, it was the gap year actually between school and university when I went out into the big bad world, and I thought that was an excellent idea. But unfortunately for me, a few pretty rotten things happened in that year.
What sort of things?
Just some traumatic events happened to
you?
me, yeah, which I was a really sweet, young, naive country kid, and I really wasn't equipped emotionally to deal with it. By the time I was at university, I was suddenly in this roaring environment where anything goes and whatever was fine. And I think it was a combination of unresolved post-traumatic stress, buffering feelings, etc. But also it was a novelty factor at university. I was the fun, wild, quote-unquote, country kid.
So you were drinking a lot from the get-go?
Bucket loads. I was never going to have 2 or 3 or drive everybody home. I was always going to be the last girl on the bar, like on the bar, dancing. I was always going to be the one doing the craziest, stupidest thing. So whatever that involved.
How much were you drinking? Yeah.
So towards the end of my illustrious drinking career, 2 bottles of wine was my preferred method. So I would...
Every day?
Yep. Oh, sorry, not every day. Sorry, when I drank, it was a minimum of 2 bottles of wine.
And how often would you drink?
Look, it varied. So in my mid-30s, I started to recognise that I had become a problem drinker, and I sort of really started trying to address it then, but it was a long, hard road.
What about after you got married?
So Timbo and I... Sorry, that's Timbo. Good-looking guy there in the front row.
Hi,
Tim. So when Tim and I, after we got married, we obviously thought, OK, we should look at having a family. And so... But my drinking was very clearly an issue for... You know, it was clearly an issue, but I was still fighting that it was an issue.
And you'd plan amounts, the amount that you'd need?
Yeah, absolutely. I would always go, oh, better not just get one bottle off, better get two. Actually, bugger it, I'll get three, because you never know. Yeah, no, seriously. I would.
And if you had that three, would you drink that three?
I would try, but I was never vertical after about 2 and a bit. I would have a red-hot go, though, don't get me wrong. If I was breathing, I was going to try and have more. It was insanity.
How bad did it get? What sort of situations did you get yourself into?
Trips to emergency, behaviour that resembled somebody who was not me at all, outright denial, scaring the living daylights out of my family, scaring my friends, exhausting my beautiful husband to the point where he was in just absolute despair and fear.
What was it like for you, Tim?
Yeah, it was pretty tough, that's for sure. I mean, at the start it was like Shen said, it was just, it seemed sort of half normal, just the whole party life. But, you know, after a while it became a real issue, and to the point that I was actually pretty frightened, you know, just going out to a social event, because I knew that...
What were you frightened of?
Well, I knew that at some point in the night that I'd have to, you know, rescue Shen, that her eyes would be starting to roll in her head, and I'd have to take her home, and quite often I'd be met with aggression and she wouldn't want to go home, and you know, that was a real issue, and it just got harder and harder.
And were you a drinker? Did you drink very much as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was, I wouldn't call myself a, well, I probably did have a problem, you know, in if you're looking at it from a doctor's perspective, but from an Aussie country boy's perspective, I'm just a normal bloke, you know.
But were you drinking those sorts of amounts?
I was, yeah. Yep.
When he was very, very young.
Yep.
But
you know, I could take it or leave it, sort of thing, yeah.
Did you try to talk to Shanna about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Every day. Every day we'd have a yarn, and it was pretty tough, though. I mean...
What would you say to her?
I'd just ask her why, and I couldn't understand it. I didn't really understand that it was alcoholism, and that might sound stupid, but it was just one of those progressive things.
What did it do to the relationship, do you think?
It certainly put a lot of strain on the relationship for a lot of years. But yeah, look, it was really tough.
Why were you doing it, do you think?
Why? I can tell you why it began. I can tell you the traumas that triggered it. I can tell you what helped it along. I can tell you what pushed it along. At the end of the day, for us, inability to have a family, my infertility, well, I presume I'm infertile. We haven't been able to have children. That was a massive tipping point for me to go into another whole new category of catastrophic self-destruction. But you know what? At the end of the day, the reason I drank was because I had become an alcoholic. That is the reason I drank.
Did anyone else other than Tim, like friends, relatives, try and pull you up on it?
Oh, gosh, yeah. But I definitely had the same things being said, which was, oh, no, you're right, have another one. You're great fun when you booze, although you should just notch it off a bit at the end of the night, Shan, because, you know, that bit wasn't great, or this... It was really only towards the end where I would come unstuck in my very dramatic way that people would go, whoa, is everything all right here?
You overheard a conversation that someone had with Tim about you.
Yeah.
Can you share that with everyone?
Yeah, yep, that was a shocker. One night, ironically, that night I wasn't drinking, and a person who was newish to town, who I thought was a pretty cool person, was with my husband, and ironically they were on the beers that night. I heard this person who hardly knew Tim, and certainly hardly knew me, beyond, you know, just first impressions and so on, just having this really intimate buddy-buddy chat and going, geez, Wani, what are you going to do about your missus? It's a bit of a worry, and because I was walking towards this chat and they didn't know I was there, and I just went, what? What? And you know what? It was a fair question from that person. It was a fair discussion to have, because they obviously wanted to be good mates with us, and they were concerned about this new guy that they thought was pretty fabulous. And what's going on with your wife? we all kind of know there's some issues going on.
And how did you react to that?
Firstly, I was pretty cranky. I was a bit humiliated. I was like shocked. I was horrified. And then it dawned on me like a great flipping light bulb moment. Well, silly. People know there's a problem. And it wasn't long after that that I actively sought getting help.
Tim then said something to you.
Oh, you did.
That pulled you right up. What did Tim say?
Timbo said to me that he would dread a phone call from a policeman or an ambulance or whatever to say, we've found your wife, she's dead, she's crashed into a tree, or she's hung herself, which were both very highly likely options. And he said to me one day, he said, sometimes I wonder, would it be better? Because he said, I've never seen a person in so much torment and agony. It was pretty rotten. It was pretty rotten. But you know what? I can understand that because for someone you love to see you in such a constant state of distress, it's pretty horrible. And no, by no means did Tim ever want me to roll up dead, but he just said it was just horrific to keep seeing the despair and the ongoing cycle of self-destruction, shame, hate, guilt, fear, drinking cycle, blah, blah, blah. At that stage, you know, we really didn't understand that this was a fatal disease that kills people.
Tim, what did it take to get you to that point where you said that?
It was just a lot of years, you know, maybe 6 or 7 years of pretty intense, you know, putting up with all this and living through it daily.
Was there ever a point where you thought of leaving the relationship?
Probably my head was saying it all the time, but my heart was saying the opposite. So, you know.
And he didn't?
He wouldn't. He said, I always knew that I'd married the best girl in Australia. I was just waiting for you to realise it. And all of Australia felt like
Yes, I think you've just really bolstered his status.
I know. If
nationally, right there.
Having lots of widows run after
For every drink that you drink per day, your risk of breast cancer goes up by 10%. But you drink a bottle of wine, that's putting your risk up by about 60%.
Helen, were you aware of all those risks?
No, it's actually frightened the shit out of me.
Back to Insight shortly, but here's what's making news tonight. The Turkish Prime Minister says US visa services suspension must be resolved immediately. The future of 7 dual citizen politicians is being tested by the High Court. And around 500 newly arrived refugee job seekers met potential employers today at a special expo. I'm back with a full bulletin tonight at 10 o'clock.
On Dateline, India's breaking old attitudes.
मेरे husband ने मुझे ऐसे अटैक किया है.
Using TV and humour.
Marital rape.
But will anything change?
Men's rights are human rights.
Dateline, next on SBS. Nothing compares to exploring the natural beauty of Canada, Alaska and the USA in 5-star luxury with Scenic.
Your last chance to fly return to Canada for only $9.95 must end October 31. Call 138 128 today.
I've checked and there's up to $1,000 back on conveyancing for you.
I don't want conveyancing.
Neither do I. Keep smiling.
New Barbie, mate.
Introducing the Weber Genesis 2. The brand new Weber GS4 cooking system gives complete cooking and temperature control, ensuring even heat and incredible barbecue flavour every time you cook. And it's all covered by a 10-year, 100% Weber guarantee.
It's not just a Barbie, it's the Weber Genesis 2.
It's not just an evolution, it's a revolution.
When Stratco designed the Handymate, they packed it with a whole heap of how-to. And right now, get a bonus 4-shelf unit valued at $25 with every Handymate purchase. So you bring the dream, Stratco will bring the how-to.
Discover new season outdoor now at Domain. Exclusive designs like the Arcadia with an elegant rope detail. The 5-piece package just $14.99. Add a splash of colour with poolside brights. These synthetic wicker weave dining chairs just $149 each. Mix it and match it to reflect your individual style. The stunning Onyx outdoor dining table and matching bench paired with a sleek carver chair. Soak up the sunshine in chic comfort with the Shelley Modular Lounge. Exclusive designs for contemporary outdoor living now at Domain.
There's one breakfast that's unbeatable for protein. It beats porridge, it beats muesli, it beats baked beans. In fact, when it comes to protein, it beats all these breakfasts. It's eggs, of course. Unbeatable.
Smoking causes 16 different types of cancer. And you have one clear way to reduce your risk.
At Best & Less, our 100% cotton jersey dresses are guaranteed to last, guaranteed to hold their shape, and guaranteed to be a cool and comfy fit for summer. Now for the everyday low price of just $10. That's why we're called Best & Less.
River Cottage Australia. It's all about the good life. It's about delicious meals and catching up with mates. It's all right here on SBS. River Cottage Australia, Monday, 7:30 on SBS and on demand.
Helen, have you thought about adverse health effects from drinking?
Funnily enough, no. I believe when my time's up, my time's up. And I live my life every day. I am thankful for every day I've got on my earth. I've lost about 5 friends that were clean living, non-smoking, non-drinking, were eating organic food before it was even invented. And we lost 4 of them in 12 months, all of cancer. And my philosophy in life changed a little bit then. I thought, well, they lived such a perfect life. I was the rebel of the group. I should have been the one that should have gone, basically. And I just love life. I love life, and I just think if I can't have my wine at night time, I won't go as far
like
as
my mum, and
I won't go as far as cut my hand off because then I can't hold the glass of wine. But yeah, no.
Why do you ignore the guidelines?
My doctor's asked me that a couple of times.
2 drinks a day.
Yes, he tells me 2. I say to him sometimes, well, I'll lie to you and I'll tell you I'll have 2. And he looks at me and he says, you can't lie because you've just gone red. So, because I actually enjoy it. As simple as that. I enjoy wine.
Have you had any health issues?
Yes, yeah.
What sort of things?
Well, my doctor is very efficient, and he does a blood test every year, and that's on liver, kidneys, whatever. My liver actually always comes back as a high reading.
Liver function, or
yeah, and they still can't work out why, because I can go off alcohol. I've done it for 3 months, done the test again, and it's the same.
But with a liver then that's showing, an abnormal reading.
He's got no idea why.
Doesn't stop you from drinking a bottle of wine a night?
A bit naughty, aren't I? A bit naughty.
But Helen, would you consider dropping, instead of having that bottle a day, would you consider having 2 glasses of wine a day?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But at the moment, I'm not drinking between Monday and Friday.
So, but you're making up for it on the weekend? Are you?
I'm not drinking 3 bottles. Not drinking 3 bottles a day.
She's regretting bringing you along right now, but it's very interesting.
And I'm drinking Margaret River wine, for goodness sake. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, I would have my bottle of wine, and then come Monday again, and I go through the week. And I don't really miss it. I can't say I miss it. I just miss not being able to sleep.
Josie, would you prefer she drank less?
If it had a bearing on her liver, yes, definitely. She's a good mate, and if reducing her alcohol intake would help with that, definitely. I'd like you to consider it.
Helen?
We've got a long plane trip to go home together.
Okay.
No, of course I will.
Karen, you've cut back on drinking every day. Why?
Well, February last year I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I have been on a drug that I use every week, and it affects the liver. And there is a very specific time. You're not supposed to drink on it. You get blood tests every 6 weeks, and every time I get my liver count done and it's good, I go, ooh.
So you're not supposed to drink at all?
You're really not supposed to, but best case scenario, you're not supposed to drink the day before the medication, the day of the medication, or the day after. And
how much are you drinking and how often?
Well, I stopped, and now I notice that I'm drinking the day before and the day after.
So it's only the day of taking the medication
That's the only
that you
time
don't
that
drink.
I've stopped drinking. And I've really kind of tried to be as healthy as possible, but it still creeps back in, and I don't understand why. I don't know why why can't I just stop it for the sake of my own health?
What do you think the other health risks are from drinking?
Liver, skin, cholesterol. Like, I'm aware of them now. In my 40s, and I guess this is what we're talking about, I didn't think about that. Hitting 50, which happened in June, has hit really hard for me. And I realise that I'm half my life over, and I don't want to be this way. I don't want to continue on this way. I want to live a healthy life.
I'm going to show you something that you might not want to see, and that probably quite a lot of women watching are going to want to see. Have a look at this.
Over recommended limits, each glass of alcohol increases your risk of health complications. Frequent or heavy drinking can take a serious toll on your vital organs and overall health. It can change the chemistry of the brain's cells to make you crave more, and can also cause brain damage. Drinking can lead to damage to the heart muscle, an irregular heartbeat, and high blood pressure. As the liver is relied on for processing alcohol, it often suffers. Heavy drinking can cause a fatty liver, alcoholic hepatitis, and scarring. Due to dangerous inflammation, the pancreas can develop pancreatitis, causing severe pain and preventing proper digestion. Drinking is also linked to increased risk of cancer in the mouth, throat, esophagus, breast, colon, and liver. If you are a woman who is pregnant, experts advise no amount of alcohol is safe.
Helen, were you aware of all those risks?
No, it's actually frightened the shit out of me.
Really?
I might send a message out to all my friends that have been sending all these crazy messages to me over the last couple of days. Cheers to you, and here's another wine to you tonight while you're talking wine on TV. I might send a little message like that back at them, because I would say we're in the same sort of crowd. Most of my friends would be drinkers like me.
You're speaking very differently to the way you were speaking at the beginning of the evening.
Good on you.
Are you quite serious about that? That really frightened you?
I am, and I think, and it has. I've nearly been in tears listening to these girls' story at their age, because I was never there at that age, but probably I might be there at this age.
Janice, you've researched women and alcohol. What prompted you to do that research? Was there something that motivated it?
Absolutely. In 2000, I was part of a research team looking at breast cancer, and it was part of my job was to go and I looked at the lived experience of people with cancer and their friends. And what I noted was that it was party time. The friends that would come to support the women, and this was women from, say, 40 to 65, would come in and they'd have a party, literally with wine. I then spoke, of course, to the specialists, and, of course, drinking alcohol is a major risk factor with those cancers. That's increased, and then that's where the interest started.
Why do you think the messages aren't getting through?
Because they don't have the emotional hit. Yep. I think if you talk to women about their drinking, it has a lot to do with lowering their emotional intensity. You actually have to see the other side, the misery, and real women talking about what really happens when you close the front door.
Totally. Totally agree.
And what it really feels like, that you're desperate. You don't know what to do.
People don't want to hear it, or they've got the support mechanisms around them, but at the end of the day, it's the individual with the problem who recognises a problem, and you ladies recognise you have problems. It's up to you to do something about it. I'm saying this because my mother had a problem. She had 8 kids and we all supported her, but she didn't want to give it up. And no matter what we did, it didn't help. And also what I worry about is your kids. Driving your kids around when you're under the influence, because the way you're talking about how much alcohol you're having at the moment, you must be driving these kids to school or wherever you're driving them at some point in time under the influence. And if that's happening, please look at yourselves.
Well, that's
it
why we're
really
stopping.
needs to be looked. No, it's fantastic that you're here, but we're here, and we're joking about certain parts of it, but this is a real issue that only you as an individual needs to address and can fix for yourself.
Kate, you're on a panel reviewing those guidelines that everyone's ignoring.
Yes.
What's your reaction to what you've heard here tonight?
I think there's more people who don't know the guidelines. I mean, some do ignore it without a doubt, but I think so many people don't know the stuff about alcohol and breast cancer. And a lot of people, even now, maybe aren't aware that that risk starts to cut in, even after 1 or 2 drinks. For every drink that you drink per day, your risk of breast cancer goes up by 10%, on average. So if you drink, I hate to say, but you drink a bottle of wine, doesn't matter how nice it is, that probably for a woman, that's putting your risk up by about 60%.
Crazy.
It's sort of scary stuff. And when I started reading these studies, I was never a big drinker, but I drink less since I've read those studies.
See, but hearing that statistic then, I get that has resonated with me, rather than you can only have 1.5%.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, that means nothing to me, but hearing what you just said, that is scary and that resonates with me.
Kate, you're 43. You began drinking in your teens and you drank heavily until 2015.
Yep.
How has it affected your health?
For my entire life, my mental health has been a disaster because of alcohol. As my drinking went on in years, in my 20s and into my 30s, there was a lot of injuries, a lot of falling, face first into the concrete and wiping out half my face, torn medial ligaments from falling over, 2 broken ankles, twisted knees. It was a disaster. Getting closer to the end of my drinking, I was finding problem solving really difficult, just really simple tasks. Even when I was sober, if I even got back to that point the next day, I was struggling to have an intelligent conversation with people, and kidney pain every time I was drinking, and I could feel that my body was shutting down.
And how much were you drinking?
A minimum of 2 bottles of wine a night, and that would have been 5 nights a week. When I walked into my GP and owned what I was up to and said, I really need some help, she said, how much are you drinking? And at that point I was drinking cider, and I was drinking 88 stubbies of cider a week.
88?
Yeah. The last night I drank on New Year's Eve of 2014, I drank at least 5 bottles of wine.
Wow. What did it take to stop?
It was New Year's Day of 2015, I think that's right. So I've had 2.5 years. And I was in bed, lying in my own urine, in the bed, in the spare room, in the back room. And I know that's horrifying, but it's how it is. And I could hear my son in the kitchen with his dad, and my daughter was there too, and he said, Dad, why is Mum still in bed? And his dad said, well, she's really tired and she's catching up on sleep, and, and I just something flicked in my head, and I went, this is ridiculous. Get up. You are lying to your kids. You're lying to yourself. Your partner's lying to your children. You're not being a mother that you should be. You're not being present. I got up, I walked through the kitchen, past the kids, sat down at my laptop, typed myself a note, said, you asshole, get it together. What are you doing? And that was the last time I drank.
And how long ago was that?
So it'll be 3 years on New Year's Day next year.
Do you miss it?
I don't miss it. No, I don't miss the effects. I don't miss what it was doing to my life. I occasionally get really annoyed. I might be out for a drive on a Sunday taking photos or something, and I'll drive past all the cafes, and sometimes it feels like everybody's drinking except me, and I get a bit resentful. And then I pull myself back into water and I think, you know what, it's not worth it. And if I ever think of drinking, which there are times when my teeth are aching and my skin's crawling and I really want to drink and I'm really going to rip my hair out, there's points where I can't go to the supermarket after 5 o'clock at night. If I've run out of milk, I'll have to go to the neighbour because I don't want to go past the bottle shop. So that still happens. So yes, I do, but I definitely don't miss the disaster that was my life.
Jasmine, you're trying to stop too. Let's have a look.
So I am a little bit anxious about making sure I've got everything to keep me occupied. I'm wanting to do this now because I don't want to have to keep living the way I've been living with the alcoholism. If the detox doesn't work, I will just have to try again. That's me, all packed. It's definitely been a long time coming. I know I can't do it anymore. Do I think 6 days is going to be enough? A part of me would like to think, definitely, that's all I need. I'm going to be really strong and I'm going to kick this habit like that. But then the professionals and the people who have been doing it for a long time have said sometimes it takes 3 detoxes before you give up. I just need to do this. I just need to get better and stop drinking so much. My home for the next 6 days. Jesus. I'll be right. I'll be right. No, I'm freaking.
So what are you expecting from the process, physically?
That I'm going to be medically assisted in quitting alcohol cold turkey.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Just what we need. So this is Watershed. Welcome.
Jasmine, you've only been out a few days. What was it like, the detox?
I coped with it reasonably well for the first 3 days and then I started feeling. Because I hadn't felt for probably 20 years because I'd just drunk it away. So come the 4th day, I started feeling and I didn't like that.
And this is very recent. How are you now?
So I came out on Sunday. I think I built myself up so much leading up to it. I'd lost so many friends, isolated so many people, knocked myself out too many times, realised I had to do something that I knew I needed this kick in the butt for 7 days to stay off the alcohol, and if I could just do that, if that would just be enough for me. And I think my mindset was already strong enough before I went in that once I came out it was just like, you've got this, you know. It's like a challenge now. I've gone 10 days, I'm going to go 11 days, I'm going to go 12 days. So, yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
Well,
right
good
now.
luck.
Yeah.
Sian, what worked for you in the end?
What worked for me was just being brutally honest for the first time in my whole life. The end result was that I had drunk myself into alcoholism. High functioning, didn't matter. Fact was, I couldn't drink.
And how are you doing now?
So great, yeah, so great. So I'm 3 years, nearly 3 years now, and I've never thought about alcohol in those 3 years. I knew I was headed for an early death, whether it was by suicide or falling down a flight of stairs. I think I was hoping for the latter. But ultimately what changed was when I looked in the mirror and stopped lying and said, OK, I am an alcoholic.
Beck, earlier this year you posted on Facebook about your drinking. Can you read out a little bit of that post for us?
OK, I posted this on Facebook. I was selective about who saw it, mind you, my closest friends. But part of what I wrote was, every night I drink, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Repeat, repeat, repeat. I hate myself for doing it around my kids. For the way that I function as a parent at less than 50% capacity when I'm alternately drunk or hungover. Sorry.
Are you okay to keep going?
Yeah, sure. I would appreciate the love and support of my family and friends, and no ridicule no jokes, no, oh, you don't drink that much. This is a real issue for me.
Awesome. That's super brave.
Yeah, it's really
super brave.
How did,
Stupid, one or the other.
No.
How did people react to that? How did your family and friends
Lots
react?
of really loving feedback. Lots of really loving support and feedback.
And where are you up to now?
Well, Sally and I are about the same time at 5 weeks, but unlike Sally, I've had a couple of blips along the way.
And where would you like to be?
I would like to be sober in the long term. I think that I'm not the sort of person that can drink and moderate at the same time, not at this point in my life anyway. Perhaps a few more years down the track when I have some sobriety under my belt and I've managed to change my brain chemistry and my habits, then maybe I could look at moderating, but for the time being I'd like to be full-time sober.
Sally, you've tried to stop drinking a few times in the past couple of years. How are you going?
This time it feels different, and I don't know why, and my psychologist says, you know, you go through stages of change, and I'm at the action point. I went and saw my doctor, I went and saw a psychologist. I told people about it. I said, even though everyone thinks it's a joke and I don't drink that much, and I'm not maybe as far down the path as other people, but I could see where it could go and I don't want to get there. So right now, one day at a time.
Helen, any final thoughts from you?
Oh, look, I think I came along tonight and probably thought I was a bit of a joke, you know, prankster or joker. Because I don't take life that serious. I laugh at most things. I can laugh at in the worst, saddest times of our life. I can still laugh. But tonight has been a big, and particularly because these girls are the same age as my daughters, and so yeah, that has changed.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. It's been really very interesting conversation, and thank you to everyone else too for sharing your stories. That is all we have time for here, but gosh, there's a lot to talk about. Let's keep doing that on social media.
Old is the dirty word.
Next week on Insight, how to stay in the workforce longer.
Well, they don't expect somebody with a great-grandchild at university to be taking gym classes. Don't pull yourself out of the chair, Mari. Try to keep your arms straight. Arms straight, tall, sitting beautifully tall.
We'll be back next week. Stay tuned now for Dateline. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.